Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We sift through the complex stories, the dense reports, and bring you the core insights you really need.
Mm.
Today, we're tackling something. Well, it sounds like fiction, honestly, but it's very real state policy happening right now.
It really does stretch the imagination.
We're looking at Mukopolis. It's a sovereign city-state, and somehow they've managed to create a, quote, nearly scam-free digital environment. That's huge, something major countries haven't figured out.
A massive achievement, yeah. But there's a catch, a really significant one.
Exactly. That's the paradox here. The person behind it, Crack Gorglestorm, everyone knows him as Kiptago, he built this incredible security, but the cost. It's this enormous automated digital prison.
And it's not just, locking people up. We're talking about something much more elaborate. The sources we've looked at describe a system using hyper-realistic VR, advanced AI. And its purpose is, very specifically, to inflict perpetual agonizing financial failure on, get this, over 5,000 global scammers they've lured in.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that, because this isn't just about catching bad guys anymore, is it? It's like weaponized psychology, using cutting-edge tech to create this endless punishment loop. So our mission today is to really get into the sources, the investigative reports, the technical docs, and figure out how Kiptago actually built this high-tech purgatory for greed.
Yeah, we're leaning heavily on Anya Plumbus's investigative work in the Mukin Daily. That gave us the operational nuts and bolts. And then we've got psychological insights from Professor Klaff Plinkerson. He's an expert on addiction compulsion.
Which seems pretty relevant here.
Oh, absolutely central. And technical analysis from Cornelius Muckworth, who knows neural interfaces inside out. Together, this stuff explains how digital vigilantism basically became a state-sponsored, precision-engineered psychological weapon. #TagI. From viral prankster to digital warden.
So to understand the prison, you kind of have to understand Kiptago himself, right? Where did he even come from?
Right. His journey is pretty wild. He started out very publicly, actually. He had this huge YouTube channel just called Kiptago. Millions of followers.
What was he doing on there?
It was surprisingly basic at first. He'd get scam calls, the tech support ones, fake investment stuff, phishing, and he'd just answer them personally. But instead of hanging up, he'd keep them on the line for hours. Just lead them in circles, ask ridiculous questions, make them explain the same thing over and over, completely infuriating, deliberate conversations.
So the goal wasn't to catch them, but just waste their time.
Exactly, pure time wasting. The idea was to drive the scammers mad just through sheer inefficiency. And the videos were often brilliant because sometimes he'd get footage from inside their call centers,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so viewers could literally watch these fraudsters just melt down, realizing how much time they'd sunk into this one completely pointless call. It was entertaining, sure, but it also basically launched the whole scam baiting genre online, made it mainstream.
But that sounds incredibly time-consuming for him, too. One guy against thousands of scammers.
That's exactly a problem he ran into. It wasn't scalable. One-on-one, you can only do so much. And the sources show he got frustrated. He apparently shifted his thinking. He's quoted saying something like, it wasn't enough to expose them. They needed to suffer for the time they stole. That was the turning point, moving from just messing with them to wanting real poetic justice.
Poetic justice. Okay.
Yeah.
So he needed a system, something automated that could handle lots of them at once.
Precisely. And that led to his first big automated trap. This massive honeypot website. Think of it as his proof of concept. A digital labyrinth designed for, passive containment.
What was the bait?
Bitcoin. Lots of it. Promised huge instant returns. That's like catnip to the global financial scamming community, right?
Totally.
But once they engaged with the site, they were basically stuck. The sources call it an endless digital maze. It was just layers and layers of fake crypto challenges, verification steps, all designed to lead absolutely nowhere. Just circular paths and dead ends.
And you mentioned earlier, some people reportedly spent years in this thing. How does that even happen? Wouldn't you just give up, cut your losses?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But this is where Kiptago's early psychological insight came in. The system wasn't just a dead end. It was designed to feel like progress was always just around the corner. It would give tiny bits of positive feedback, like maybe you solve some ridiculously complex puzzle and get temporary access to a fake wallet showing millions, just enough to make you think, okay, this is real, I'm almost there.
The sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly that. Plus, variable reinforcement, like a slot machine. You've already invested so much time, so much effort. The next solution has to be the one. It weaponized their own greed and obsession against them. They weren't just chasing the money anymore. They were trying to justify the time they'd already wasted.
Clever. But still, a website is one thing. Going from that, this sort of decentralized digital trap, to a physical VR prison, that's a huge leap, needs resources, needs legal cover.
Absolutely. That's the crucial next step. Building a dedicated VR facility, running it, dealing with the legal side that needs serious backing. He couldn't do that alone from his basement.
So, the city partnership.
Right. He somehow managed to secure major funding, government-level support, by partnering with Mukopolis. It was a new city-state, apparently really keen to build a reputation for digital security to attract legitimate business.
So, a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Seems like it. Mukopolis got its scam-free environment, Kiptago got the funding, the infrastructure, and crucially, the legal umbrella to build the Virtua Grotto Game Center. That's what transformed him from, a rogue coder into an official operator, basically sanctioned by the state.
Okay, so the honeypot was passive. People stumbled into it. But for the VR prison, you need bodies and chairs.
Yeah.
You need to actively capture these people, these global criminals who are probably incredibly paranoid and careful. How do you get them to physically travel to Mukopolis?
Yeah, that's the next big challenge, isn't it? You can't just send an invite saying, fly to Mukopolis to be imprisoned. The lure had to be absolutely perfect, completely convincing, irresistible even.
And that's where HOLLS comes in.
All right.
The hyper-optimized luring and laceration systems. Quite a name.
It is. And HOLLS isn't just some simple script. It's described as this highly sophisticated network of specialized AI agents. Their whole job is to convincingly pretend to be the perfect mark.
The perfect victim for a scam.
Exactly. But tailored. These AIs use predictive modeling, supposedly trained on vast amounts of data about past scams, what worked, what didn't, regional patterns, everything. So the AI figures out the profile of the scammer or the stem ring it's targeting, their culture, the kind of scams they run, how they communicate.
Wow. Okay, so it's not one size fits all. The AI customizes its persona.
Precisely. If it's dealing with a tech support scam call center in, say, South Asia, the AI might pose as this incredibly wealthy but technically clueless elderly American, lots of offshore money, easy to confuse. But if the target is a slick European crypto fraudster, maybe the AI becomes this brilliant, slightly dodgy tech insider. Hints at access to massive, unregulated funds,
Yeah, I see. Creating the perfect bait for that specific fish.
Exactly. And these aren't quick interactions. The AI agents build relationships, sometimes over months. They might operate through fake shell companies, multiple false identities, all generated by the AI. It's incredibly complex trust building.
So the scammer thinks they're grooming this massive whale, investing time, energy, strategy.
They believe they're about to pull off the biggest score of their lives, the golden goose, as you said. The AI guides them step by step towards what seems like the final payout phase, and the promised amount is astronomical, life-changing money, billions potentially in virtual assets.
Right, they're hooked, salivating. And then comes the final hurdle, the reason they have to physically show up.
Yes. That's the critical piece. The AI, pretending to finalize this huge deal, introduces one last, seemingly minor complication: physical presence required. The AI explains that because the payout is so massive, so potentially off the books, regulations require the final claim to be made in person at the main Virtua Grotto Center in Mukopolis.
The physical location.
And the excuse is perfect. A necessary biometric verification for compliance, for security, for regulatory release. Sounds totally legit in the world of high finance or big crypto deals.
Yeah, plausible deniability built right in.
Yeah.
A scammer who thinks they're about to land billions isn't going to balk at a plane ticket and a fingerprint scan, are they?
Especially not at that point. They're at peak greed, peak anticipation. They've invested so much. This feels like the very last step, a tiny formality before riches. So they fly in. They arrive at the Virtua Grotto reception, probably feeling pretty pleased with themselves, ready to collect. They go through the biometric verification.
Which isn't for verifying payment at all.
No. It's for identifying them and, crucially, activating the neural interface system for the prison. The moment of their supposed triumph is actually the exact moment they step into lifelong digital captivity. The door slams shut, digitally speaking.
So they arrive, they do the scan, they put on the VR headset thinking they're about to see their virtual billions. And then what? What do they actually experience?
Well, they don't see prison bars, that's for sure. They see exactly what they desire most: opportunity. Massive, high-stakes chances to make incredible wealth. The Virtua Grotto Game Center itself, the physical building, is basically irrelevant. The real prison is entirely virtual. It's this incredibly detailed, photorealistic simulation. And it's all managed by the core AI, which Kiptago apparently named Mammon.
Mammon.
Right.
Like the biblical demon of grade.
Seems likely, doesn't it? Fits the theme. Mammon is the warden, the architect of their suffering, running these simulations under Kiptago's directive.
And the goal isn't just to keep them busy. Kiptago was clear. It's about torment. Perpetual torment designed around their greed.
Exactly. And the torment comes through these incredibly high-risk, high-stress, maddening scenarios. Occupations, challenges, whatever you want to call them. The sources say they're specifically designed to mirror the kind of high-stakes thinking that drove their criminal careers, but now with simulated, visceral consequences. They're not just clicking buttons, they're in it.
Okay, give me an example. You mentioned Mars earlier. What does that actually look like inside the simulation?
Right, so imagine. You're not just seeing Mars, you are a pioneer on Mars. Your mission. Maybe establish a self-sustaining mining colony or find some ultra-rare mineral deposit worth trillions in the simulation. But it's brutal. You're constantly managing oxygen levels, navigating blinding dust storms that can tear your equipment apart, fixing critical machinery failures. It requires non-stop, exhausting virtual effort. Real problem solving, real stress.
And they succeed if they actually manage to find the minerals, survive the storms.
Then Mammon delivers the reward. Huge success. The minerals are secured, instantly converted into a massive virtual crypto balance in their simulated account. They feel that rush, that incredible high of achievement after all that struggle. They've won.
Okay. They have the virtual fortune. But this is the golden goose loop. So how does Mammon take it away? It has to feel plausible within the simulation, right?
Absolutely. It can't just vanish. The loss has to be engineered, specific, unavoidable, but logical within the scenario's rules. So, in the Mars example, maybe there's a sudden catastrophic solar flare simulation that perfectly targets their data storage, wiping the crypto keys. Or maybe a rival corporation, also simulated, hacks their deep space data transmission just as they're transferring the funds.
Something external, uncontrollable, but devastating.
Precisely. The end result is always the same. Absolutely zero net financial gain. All that work, all that risk, all that temporary success, wiped out. They're back to square one.
Ugh, it sounds soul-crushing.
And that's the point. It's not just about taking the prize away. It's about making them lose it in a way that makes them furious, determined to try again, convinced they can beat the system next time.
So the loop starts over immediately.
Instantly. Mammon presents a new scenario. Maybe this time it's deep-sea salvage, find a legendary shipwreck full of gold. Or maybe you're a smuggler running high-value goods through active simulated war zones. The potential reward is always huge and immediate. The required effort is always immense and agonizing. And the failure, the loss, is always guaranteed and psychologically devastating. Zero accumulation, ever.
And this continuous cycle, this grinding failure, is what Kiptago considers poetic justice.
Yeah. He explicitly called it the perfect punishment. The sources quote him directly. They are forced to live out their deepest desire, the high-stakes pursuit of wealth forever while achieving zero.
Wow.
Their madness, he apparently said, is simply the frustration of a greedy person perpetually teased by a dream. They're not just being punished for their greed, they're being punished by their own greed, endlessly amplified. #Tag4DA, the technology and psychology of perpetual torment.
Okay, this is more than just a fancy, frustrating video game. There's clearly deep psychology and some serious tech making this work. Let's talk about Professor Plinkerson's analysis, the addiction angle. How does that explain why this loop is so effective, so to speak?
Plinkerson's work really nails it. He frames the golden goose loop in terms of addiction science, specifically something called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule.
Okay, what does that mean in plain English?
Think of a slot machine. You pull the lever, you don't know if you'll win or how much. Sometimes you win a little, sometimes nothing, occasionally maybe a bigger payout. It's unpredictable. That unpredictability is key.
Right, that's what keeps people glued to gambling machines, the maybe next time feeling.
Exactly. It's the most addictive pattern known, psychologically. In Kiptago's system, when the scammer does succeed, finds the Mars minerals, gets the virtual gold, their brain gets flooded with dopamine. That massive reward rush feels amazing, validates all their effort, makes them think, see, I can win.
But then Mammon engineers the loss.
Right, and that sudden, devastating loss triggers a huge stress response. Cortisol floods their system, so you get this intense cycle, massive dopamine high, then crushing cortisol crash.
And that cycle itself becomes addictive.
Highly addictive. The brain immediately craves that dopamine hit again to escape the low. So they're instantly compelled to jump back into the next scenario, chase the next win, endure the next round of effort.
So Kiptago isn't just punishing them. He's scientifically hijacking their brain chemistry, using the same mechanisms that underpin gambling addiction.
Precisely. And Plinkerson points out something crucial. The target population, these financial fraudsters, are often already wired for this kind of high-risk, high-reward-seeking behavior. Their brains might even be more susceptible to this kind of reinforcement schedule.
They're basically pre-selected for addiction to this exact kind of loop.
You could say that. Kiptago built an environment where they are forced to mainline their addiction, the pursuit of wealth, constantly, but without ever getting the lasting satisfaction. Just the cycle of craving, temporary high, and crushing loss forever.
Okay, now the tech side. Cornelius Muckworth, the neural interface expert.
Yeah.
He confirmed this isn't just VR goggles and headphones, right? It's deeper.
Much deeper. Muckworth describes it as a direct, closed-loop neural interface. That's essential for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
First, the realism. To make the simulation truly indistinguishable from reality, no lag, no disconnect, perfect sensory feed, you need that direct brain link. But second, and this is the really disturbing part.
The pain integration.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting and frankly quite chilling. The system isn't just showing them things, it's making them feel things. Physical sensations, pain, nausea.
How does that work without actually, hurting their physical bodies in the chair?
It's a closed loop. That means the AI, Mammon, isn't just sending signals to the brain, it's also reading signals from the body. It monitors their real-world heart rate, their stress responses via skin conductivity, muscle tension. So if the simulation demands they sprint across that virtual battlefield, Mammon uses the neural interface to simulate the physical consequences, the burning lungs, the aching muscles, the feeling of dehydration, even the sharp stab of a simulated injury.
It's tricking their nerves, making the brain think the body is experiencing this.
That's the idea. Muckworth's analysis suggests it's likely a combination of sophisticated haptic feedback systems built into the chair or suit, plus targeted neural stimulation. Signals designed to directly trigger the brain's perception of pain, fatigue, hunger, cold.
So when they feel exhausted after simulated months on Mars, they feel genuinely physically exhausted.
That's the claim, a bone-deep, crushing fatigue. Maybe the system even uses temperature controls to simulate the chill of exposure. It's visceral, real suffering, generated entirely by the simulation interfacing directly with their nervous system.
That anchors the illusion completely, doesn't it? It makes the stakes feel absolutely real because the consequences feel physically real. The loss isn't just numbers on a screen. It's tied to genuine, felt suffering.
Precisely. It's the ultimate fusion. The psychological torment of the endless loop, combined with the simulated but physically felt reality of pain and exhaustion. Kiptago ensures they are totally immersed, body, mind, everything in this hopeless, agonizing game they can never win. #tag V, ethical immunity and sovereign law.
Okay, the technology is astounding and horrifying, but deliberately inflicting perpetual, agonizing psychological and simulated physical torture. I mean, that has to raise some serious ethical red flags, right?
Yeah.
There must be huge opposition.
Oh, absolutely. There's been fierce criticism from humanitarian groups, legal scholars, human rights organizations all over the world. The whole operation flies in the face of established international norms about humane treatment.
What are the main arguments against it, besides the obvious cruelty?
Well, a major one is the complete lack of any possibility for rehabilitation. The system isn't designed to teach anyone a lesson or make them a better person. It's pure calculated vengeance, distilled agony maximization.
Which really gets to the heart of what justice is even for, doesn't it?
It does. Is justice just about punishing people and keeping society safe? If so, maybe Moukopoulos argues Kiptago's system works perfectly. 5,000 scammers off the streets, 0 chance of reoffending, and the city is safe. Win-win from that perspective. But if justice also involves acknowledging the humanity of the offender, even criminals, and maybe offering some path toward change, then this system is seen as a complete moral disaster. It just reduces people to these tormented engines of greed forever.
So given all this ethical outrage, this international condemnation, how are Kiptago and Moukopoulos getting away with it? Why hasn't someone shut it down?
Sovereignty. That's the shield. Moukopoulos is a sovereign city-state. Its government explicitly approved Kiptago's methods. They saw the upside, that scam-free digital environment, and decided it was worth the ethical cost, or at least worth ignoring the criticism.
But surely international bodies, the UN, major countries, They can apply pressure, sanctions, human rights
Yeah,
laws.
they try, but Mukopolis has its defenses ready. According to the sources, they lean hard on two main legal principles. First, non-intervention. Basically, this is our internal penal system, stay out of our business, standard sovereign state argument.
Okay.
Second, they likely argue state necessity. They position global scamming not just as a nuisance, but as an existential threat to their digital economy. And when facing an existential threat, they argue extreme measures are justified for the collective good, for national security.
That sounds slippery.
Yeah.
A dangerous justification. If any state can just claim necessity to justify torture, where does that end?
That's exactly the fear critics have. And Mukopolis seems to have legally ring-fenced the operation pretty effectively. Remember how the scammers were lured there by HOLLS?
Yeah, they came voluntarily, technically.
Right. So Mukopolis argues they entered the jurisdiction freely, intending to commit a crime within Mukopolis. That neatly sidesteps messy extradition battles. And the critics, the human rights groups, they're mostly outside Mukopolis. They can condemn, they can protest, but they have no actual legal power inside Mukopolis to force a change.
So the law, in this case, is just whatever Mukopolis says it is within its borders, regardless of international standards.
Pretty much. It's a standoff. The system keeps running. Over 5,000 people remain trapped in this digital hellscape unchallenged. And for the citizens of Mukopolis, Kiptago's automated purgatory is the silent, maybe unsettling, but apparently effective price they pay for their digital peace and quiet. He remains the architect of agony, operating completely beyond the reach of global human rights enforcement. #tag outro.
Wow. Okay. That was a lot. A really challenging deep dive today, tracing Kiptago's path from, like you said, a viral prankster to the designer of this state-backed digital nightmare. We've seen how he built this incredibly complex VR prison, securing Mukopolis, but at a staggering ethical cost.
Yeah, it's really the ultimate fusion of addiction science, neural interface tech, and sophisticated AI mammon, all focused on creating the perfect punishment for financial greed. A punishment that guarantees endless suffering and zero gain for the criminal, all in the name of protecting the city.
And it really forces you, the listener, to grapple with some fundamental questions about justice, especially as technology gets more powerful. If tech can create what seems like a perfect punishment, one that completely contains the criminal, offers total protection to society, but does so by inflicting maximum psychological torment, does that make it right? Where do we draw the line for acceptable state action?
Is the end result that scam-free city, that sanctuary for digital business, enough justification? Does the overwhelming benefit to the many outweigh the engineered agony of the few, even if those few are criminals? Or does the way we punish matter? Do the means have to be constrained by some basic standard of human dignity, regardless of the crime, regardless of the technological possibility?
That's definitely something to think about. Does technological perfection in punishment justify the means? Or are there lines we shouldn't cross, even for security? We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.